The principles of cities are social inclusion, design of the built environment, and environmental responsibility. All those three come together, and the only sustainable form of the city is the compact, developed city.
The centre of Paris is very compact, but the suburbs are very diverse and much lower density and are very poorly connected. And a great metropolis connects its suburbs and its city into one. Connection is the most important physical aspect of the city, and also the environmental agenda demands that your public transport system is efficient and moves as many people as possible to reduce the amount of private transport that you're obliged to take.
Taking intensification as the clue to the densification, then one could say that Paris, even in the centre, could be densified or intensify around transportation hubs. What is probably the most important suggestion of our report is that Paris should not expand, it should be built on Paris, Paris on Paris, and that we should use derelict land until it's fully used before we build out at all, because that's the only sustainable form if we don't want a car-based cities. You need that densification around transport, and you don't want the further expansion.
What we're saying is if you've got a holistic metropolis that you have to deal with it holistically, you have to have a decision-making structure which can make a holistic view. And in Paris, we find, as Richard has said, you've never seen well, you can say it, Richard, you've never seen a city where the body is disconnected from its arms. It's quite striking. So Ile-de-France operates independently of the Hôtel de Ville and central Paris, and somehow you've got to make a holistic ensemble. That probably means changes to the governance. So we proposed a number of alternatives for changes in the governance with the specific objective of trying to build some proposal which actually allows united strategic thinking for the whole of the Paris metropole area.
We are social beings. We want to meet. We meet in cities, and those cities should be controlled by we who live in those cities. There's a very clear image. There is not a very clear image in the government of Paris. There's a very clear one in there for the 2 million people, but as Mike has said, when you move to getting on for 10 million, there's no clarity.
One of the issues that's come up amongst the 10 consultants is the issue of deregulation. That is to say, are there ways of changing the planning rules to the benefit of public space? There are many places in Paris which are regulated by laws which don't really relate to the modern world. Heights, widths, open spaces, lines of conformity, many of them are now out of date. It's certainly true that a rethinking of the regulations would provide us with opportunities for change. The périphérique is the classic sort of ring constraint, which, you know, one sees two Parises, the Paris inside the ring and the Paris outside the ring. And psychologically and physically, we want to be able to remove that ring. You still need the transportation benefit of it, but you need to join the city, the inner city and the outer city, into one great metropolis. If you pass the périphérique, the city is divided into pieces by huge infrastructure barriers. One of our proposals is to franchir les barrières. We're trying to remove those barriers and link people again across, because there's no reason for the various communities to be that isolated.
A city is a mixture of people, of poor and rich, of working and living, of leisure and so on. And what we're saying is they should be close together around transport. They should have, yes, public space. Very important to have a sense of place.
We're also proposing green parks which link the city heart with its suburbs. And after all, linkage is what it's really about.
And open space is really a right to everybody. Everybody should be able to see a tree from their window. Everybody should have a bench very close to their house. Everybody should have a play space. So public spaces, again, have to be integrated within the texture of the Paris and also easily walkable to.
I think there are several hundred square kilometres of rooftops in Paris which are desperately underused. Richard's terrace at home is an absolute delight. It's a piece of park on top of a building in central London. It seems completely nuts that you don't use that opportunity for the benefit of everybody. It's a green element, it brings biodiversity, it brings pleasure and leisure, and it makes the city even more beautiful.
Cities are for the pleasure of people, for the meeting of people. Therefore, the public domain is at the heart of it. And the great rivers, whether it's the Seine or the Thames, is the greatest of our blue parks, if you like. Then, and other waterways we should also link. And then you need a network of linking from the Seine to other areas, but also the Seine, you must be able to easily get to it and enjoy it. I think the next step should be not only creating a united, rather than having 10 groups, but a united or a smaller integrated group, but also a group that starts to actually look at specific projects. Because the danger is that you just master plan, but master plan never comes into reality. To make reality is the next step.
I'm struck by the fact that the discussions at the beginning of this process are already different than they are now. Now we've moved forward quite significantly. The Ile-de-France, the city and the government are now beginning to talk similar languages and all agree that common strategic priorities are real and can't be escaped.
I think what we've done is produced a beginning of a strategy. That strategy needs to be further developed, but the strategy will be carried out by building, piece by piece, putting the city together. Not just us, lots of people are obviously building the city. There is a danger of master plans, and historically there's a danger, they're just left on paper, they don't change the city.